Hello and welcome. I'm Suma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. According to media reports, Algeria has started procedures to cancel its 2013 air services agreement with the United Arab Emirates, formally notifying Abu Dhabi and the International Civil Aviation Organization. The move comes amid rising political tensions between the two countries. Iran's foreign minister says U.S. nuclear talks mediated by Oman are off to a good start and will continue. Tehran insists it will discuss only its nuclear program and calls for talks without threats or pressure. According to Syrian state media reports, Saudi economic delegation led by Investment Minister Khalid al-Falih arrived in Damascus to sign strategic agreements with Syria aimed at supporting the Syrian economy and launching a new phase of bilateral partnership. Italian police said they suspect deliberate arson after a fire-damaged rail infrastructure near Bologna, causing train delays of up to 2 hours at one of Italy's busiest hubs. On the first full day of the Winter Olympic Games, now the Italian anti-terror police have started investigations. However, no claim of responsibility has been made so far. France's national financial prosecutor has opened an investigation into former culture minister Jacques Lang and his daughter Caroline Lang over suspected aggravated tax fraud laundering following the release of U.S. Justice Department files linking Lang to late financial and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. While Lang denies any wrongdoing, he says he will fully cooperate with the investigations. The US and India released an interim trade framework aimed at lowering tariffs and deepening economic ties. Both sides say more negotiations are needed to finalize a broader trade agreement. A US appeals court upholds Trump's policy of mandatory detention for migrants without bond. The 2-1 ruling marks the first appellate backing despite widespread lower court opposition. Thousands have gathered in Bani Walid yesterday for the funeral of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, who was shot dead by unidentified gunmen on Tuesday, a turnout that highlighted Libya's deep political divisions that still remain after more than a decade of the 2011 uprising. Now we start with one of top stories of the day. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi says the next round of talks between Iran and the United States is expected to take place soon, though no specific date has been set. Araghchi has made it clear that Iran's missile program is never negotiable, stressing that missiles are a defense issue and will not be compromised. He has reiterated that enrichment is Iran's inalienable right, but said Tehran is ready to reach a reassuring deal with Washington. The Iranian foreign minister has warned that Iran would target U.S. bases in the region if attacked, while making clear that American soil would not be hit. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi says the next round of talks between Iran and the United States is expected to take place soon. Now we welcome Mr. Sol Sadka. He's a political commentator, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for joining us. Good to see you. Now looking at this, why is Iran so bold even though Iran seems cornered? And what are we to make of current situation about the talks? Mr. Sadka, you might be muted there.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Good to be with you. You always want to be paying attention to what people are doing and not what they're saying. So while Iran is talking with great bluster about how they're promising to start World War III, attack American bases, and are promising not to negotiate under pressure, when in practice we notice that they are indeed negotiating under pressure, and they certainly don't have the means to start World War III. So pay attention to what they're doing and not what they're saying.
So, as you mentioned, we should be focused on their actions. Can you highlight their actions?
Well, their actions in practice are to continually break their own red lines. They said they will not negotiate under military pressure, and yet they are. And even as we speak, America and even the UK are continuing to build up their military equipment in the region surrounding Iran and continue to surveil them and prepare for a strike, which in my estimation, will eventually be coming. And the reason is that Iran are simply unable to provide the minimum that the Americans are demanding, i.e. handing over their nuclear material to a third party at the very least and ending their missile programs. None of that is possible. No, they can't do that, even though there might be some people within the Iranian regime who might want to, because they're pragmatic and they understand the looming American threat. There are portions there who will simply not agree. In other words, there's no way that the Iranians can come together to give the correct answer that any smart nation would offer the Americans at this point. So they are relatively, it would seem, doomed.
How do you analyze their capacity, Iran's capacity, in case the talks do fall out and there's no understanding then?
Well, to understand Iran's capacity, we can only really look at what their capacity was 6 months ago in June, when the Israelis and then the Americans attacked them over 12 days. And their capacity, to be frank, was absolutely nil. Their air defenses completely failed and were removed within 24 hours, giving the Israelis and then the Americans free rein over American airspace. So, for example, if the Americans were not particularly interested in toppling the regime, what they could do with great ease is impose a no-fly zone over the entirety of Iranian airspace and blockade them via the sea, indefinitely, and at virtually no cost to themselves. They could destroy every single Iranian jet. They could knock out every single piece of Iranian anti-air defense equipment, right down to the last launcher. And once that is done, they can simply take their time and demolish any kind of offensive capabilities that Iran may have at will, as Israel was busy doing for 12 days. And that could be resumed at any time, and with almost no way for them to stop Israel or the US in any way.
What concrete assurances would Iran and US both need to see for the negotiations to succeed?
From what I'm understanding, the Americans are primarily fixated on taking possession of all of Iran's fissile nuclear material, which is believed to be buried in certain places in Iran under bombed sites, although we don't know the exact details. And they also want to see the ballistic missile program stopped, with perhaps some of the critical equipment handed over as well. And they also want to see Iran stop supporting its proxies across the Middle East. And the stick that the Americans have to beat Iran with is very, very great. So the Americans don't have any particular reason to offer Iran much of a carrot, since the stick is immense and they can completely clobber them. And there's nothing that the Iranians can really do in response, apart from localized terror attacks and shooting off ballistic missiles without any particular strategic value.
With that, I'd like to thank Mr. Solsadka for sharing that insight with us from Tel Aviv. Now we focus on to Pakistan. Pakistan's Interior Minister has said that authorities have arrested 4 individuals who helped facilitate the deadly suicide bombing attack yesterday that struck a Shia mosque in Islamabad. At least 31 worshippers were killed and around 169 others were injured in this incident. The attack was claimed by ISIL, Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, which is a militant extremist group active in the region. Security forces have reportedly conducted coordinated raids in Peshawar and Nowshera, detaining the alleged mastermind and other key aides linked to the suicide bomber. They are expected to produce a final report within the next 72 hours. Moreover, officials have identified the suspected attacker as a resident of Peshawar who had reportedly trained in Afghanistan before carrying out the suicide bombing, which officials say involved initial gunfire at mosque security before the explosives were detonated. Meanwhile, thousands of mourners attended funerals for the victims in Islamabad earlier today. International leaders, including those from Malaysia and Tajikistan, have expressed solidarity with Pakistan and condemned the violence. Now for this, we welcome retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar. He's an international relations expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General Doctor, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, what more can you tell us about this, the report that has just come in?
Thank you, Uzma, because the situation is not very stable in Pakistan, especially in Islamabad, and they are practically trying to declare it as a state of emergency because there has been a massive intelligence failure. And if I take you back to the last 1 year, there have been 1,006 terrorist attacks in Pakistan and 26 suicide attacks. In November 2025, there was an attack in the district court in Islamabad, again a suicide bomber. So, what is the government doing about it? I mean, are they functional? Are they able to stop this influx and cascading effect? I will call it the way one attack transcends into a second one. So there is a lot of introspection required to be done by the Pakistan establishment, by the Pakistan army. Coming to a conclusion so fast and trying to attribute it with the links in Afghanistan is something not new in Pakistan. They want to show how alert and how efficient their intelligence agencies are, that in 48 hours they have been able to link it up with a particular organization. I believe they have produced a letter also which has been shown in the media. The authenticity of the letter is not, it's not verified. So you can produce any document and you can show in the media and say that XYZ has done this and you link it to Afghanistan, because ultimately if you remember, the day this blast took place, there were a rhetoric in Pakistan linking it to India, and subsequently they couldn't find any shred of evidence to link it to India. Now they have linked it to Afghanistan. So I take this news which is emanating from Pakistan with a pinch of salt, and I really would not like to give much credence unless some kind of forensic evidence is put forward. And because whenever these incidents take place, there has to be a forensic investigation to find out who has the nature of the ID used, the nature of the explosive used, from where this explosive was obtained, and what are the links or the chain of these people who are involved. They may have produced 3-4 people, because it's nothing new in Pakistan. You can produce anybody and put him behind bars. Look what is happening in Balochistan. Pakistan has framed a law there which says that they have carried out an amendment to the constitution which says that you can arrest anybody and put him behind bars for 90 days without a charge sheet, without a judicial review. So is this democracy? I mean, your larger question is to the Pakistanis that you pride yourself in being a democracy, but I don't think you are a democracy. Because in a democracy, everything is transparent. So I take it, Subha, from that point of view, that This blast is not an isolation in Pakistan. It is basically a sectarian violence. And if you see, a Sunni mosque has been attacked. Largely, the population of Pakistan, Shia mosque has been attacked, and largely, uh, Pakistan is a Sunni state, a Sunni Muslim state. Then, where is the security of the minority population in Pakistan? Who's to be taken to task? Uh, the Pakistan establishment has got a number of questions to be answered. And unless they answer these questions to their own people, they don't have to answer this question to me or to India or to anybody else. They have to answer it to their own people, that why are you targeting and why these incidents are targeting a minority community in Pakistan. It's basically a human rights issue which the government of the day must address.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for highlighting that important message and sharing that with us. Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar, please stay with us as we come back to you. Now, looking at Italy, Italy has made it clear that it will not be joining US President Donald Trump's so-called Board of Peace. Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani has said that today that participation is blocked by Italy's constitution, describing the legal obstacle as insurmountable. Trump has announced the creation of the Board of Peace at the World Economic Forum in Davos in January. So far, around 19 countries have signed the founding charter, with the body being presented as a new platform for conflict management and post-war reconstruction. However, Rome says its hands are tied under Italy's constitution. The country cannot be part of an international organization led by a single foreign leader. Tajani has said this legal limit makes it impossible for Italy to take part regardless of political considerations. While Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, a known ally of President Trump, had earlier acknowledged these constitutional problems last month, she suggested that the framework of the board could possibly be reopened or modified to accommodate Italy and other European countries, but Tajani's comments now appear to rule out that option. Speaking to journalists, Tajani said the limit is clear and cannot be overcome from a legal standpoint. His remarks came just a day after he met U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on the sidelines of the Olympics in Milan. The Board of Peace was originally described as a body to oversee the rebuilding of Gaza. However, its charter does not limit its role to the Palestinian territory and appears to position it as a potential alternative to existing multilateral institutions, including the United Nations. Now we welcome back retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar. He's joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General Doctor, for staying with us. Now, does this excuse or the reasoning given by Italy, does it affect any credibility or legitimacy of President Trump? Also, how do you think about the timing that they have announced this after they just met or hosted, J.D. Vance and or other delegations from U.S.?
A very interesting and a very pertinent question which you have raised here, because Board of Peace slowly, I have a feeling, is going to lose its legitimacy in the perception of the larger world. In Trump's perception, of course, it has legitimacy, and those 18, 19 countries which are part of it are not major powers of a being which dictate the world geopolitics. None of the G7 countries are part of this. None of the countries apart from the US are a part of the Security Council are part of this. And Rome's refusal reflects a deeper European anxieties about unilateralism, the erosion of multilateral conflict management frameworks, and I refer to that to the United Nations in particular, and uncertainties surrounding a possible second Trump presidency, because a lot of questions are being raised in the United States also with regard to the continuation of President Trump as the President of the United States. Now, if you look at this Board of Peace and its foreign policy narrative, it is basically informal grouping of leaders uh, who are trying to mediate to resolve a major conflict. However, if you look at the larger understanding of this Board of Peace, in legal terms, I think it lacks legal scrutiny, because anybody can declare himself as a Board of Peace and then get together the countries. Where is the legitimacy as far as the legal standing is concerned? Second is, there is no clear membership criteria here, because everything seems to be controlled by one person here, and I don't think any of the member countries will have any say in the decision making once it happens. The third is the institutional accountability is not there. It's very important here to have this accountability. And lastly, defined enforcement mechanisms. Who's going to enforce? And this international stabilization force, which we are talking about, the ISF, it is yet to be constituted. Who's going to be part of it? We are actually hearing Egypt is going to join, and some of the countries are going to join, but on ground nothing has happened. And now Italy is a mid-ranking power. It has a lot of global influence, and it is a part of the European Union, NATO, G7, UN, and I think the ball has been set rolling by Rome now, and slowly I think this is my understanding that many of the other European Union countries will also follow suit, because so far they have not, either said yes or no, but I think over a period of time, the no's will be much larger in a number than the A's or the yeses. So I think this is a very important signaling. I would like to emphasize here. This is a very important signaling from the European countries now, and you may not be surprised if France and Germany will also seek a similar kind of statement as Rome has done, and it has a broader ramification to the foreign policy of Trump now and the future of the Gaza peace plan, because as I see it, its future is extremely bleak. You cannot enforce a peace through coercion, through mechanisms which are not transparent.
Last but not least, UN's conflict resolution, it's not doing very good, in just my opinion. So, given concerns that the board could rival existing institutions like the UN, do you think this can be or should be finally be a wake-up call for UN to redo their system?
So it's a very pertinent observation you have made here. But who dictates policy in the UN, and who's influencing the UN today? The very structure of the UN is flawed, because 1945, when you made the constitution, and in 47 you started implementing things in the UN. That is after the World War II. The world, the geopolitics have undergone a change. So you can't have the same constitution which you had in 1945 and talk about 2026 now, almost 8 decades over. So there is a requirement to carry out restructuring of the UN, and that can only be done because unfortunately you have these 5 countries who are going to decide. UN has got 193 countries, but 5 countries are dictating things in the UN, so I think it's very unfair. You have given no voice to 193 countries means that 189 countries or 188 countries have no voice, and only 5 countries have the voice. So I think it's very unfair the way UN has been structured. There is a need now to carry out the review, but who's going to bell the cat and who's going to
Yes.
push the agenda through, I think is the larger question.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for highlighting that. With that, I would like to thank Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Sudan. A drone strike by Sudan's Rapid Support Forces has hit a vehicle carrying displaced families, which led to the death of 24 people, including 8 children. This attack follows the targeting of a World Food Programme convoy just the day before. The vehicle was transporting conflict-displaced people in the Dubaker area when it was attacked near Rahat. Several others were injured and taken to Rahat for treatment. Though the region is facing severe medical shortages, the Sudan Doctors Network has called on international groups to protect civilians and hold the RSF accountable. Now we move on to Milan. The Milan Olympics women's hockey tournament has descended into chaos after Switzerland confirmed a player tested positive for norovirus. The development came just hours after Switzerland's dramatic 4-3 comeback win over the Czech Republic. As the precaution, the entire Swiss roster has now been placed in isolation. Due to the outbreak, the Swiss team was forced to miss Friday's opening ceremony as medical staff moved quickly to contain the virus and prevent it from spreading through the Olympic Village. In a statement, the Swiss Ice Hockey Federation said the affected player had been housed in a single room since arriving on Monday and was isolated immediately after showing the symptoms. The player did not take part in Friday's game and has been symptom-free since Friday morning. No other players are currently showing signs of illness, but officials say full team isolation is necessary given how contagious norovirus is. Switzerland is now the second women's hockey team impacted by the virus. Finland was hit earlier this week, forcing the postponement of its opening game against Canada. At one point, only 10 Finnish players were healthy enough to skate, with 13 quarantined in the athletes' village. That game has now been rescheduled for February 12th. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.